All right, Gussapolooza 2024. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. And for those folks at home, welcome. We're at the MTAV Barn Stage, the Multitech Audiovisual Barn Stage. They are the key sponsors for this area. They're a key sponsor of the live stream that you're seeing at home. All this equipment and gear, look them up for sure. They are worth your while.
Good morning. Happy Sunday. To those of you joining us online, welcome. My name is Melissa Johnston. I am here from Metalworks Institute in Mississauga, where I'm the Director of Student Success, and I also teach in the business program. So this morning, bright and early, we're going to talk about what every independent musician needs to know if they want to be successful. And by successful, I mean if you want to get paid. We all want money, right? Money is great. So what you do, what you create has value. And that's the most important thing to remember. When you create a piece of art, a piece of music, there is an inherent value associated with that. And it's very easy early in our careers, or even as we're moving through our careers, to think that I'm a creative. I'm going to focus on the creative side of the business and just make my music. And if I make my music, it will come. I wish that was the case, but the more tools you have in your toolbox, especially as an independent musician, the better off you will be. So this morning, I'm going to kind of walk you through what you should know, what the Canadian industry is based on, especially when it comes to music royalties. So let's say you're a creator. You write a song, right? You're also a songwriter. That song has value from the moment that you create it. So for an independent musician, you need to understand that there's sort of two buckets of royalties, if you will. You have royalties associated with the song, that music and lyrics that you created. And on the other side, if you choose to record that music, there are royalties associated with that recording, that tangible recording that you hear. So for a lot of independent creatives, you have ownership over both of those things. When we get into a deal with a record label, things may change a little bit. But let's start with the song. As a songwriter, what do you need to know? Well, you need to register your songs. A lot of people will talk about things like poor man's copyright, all of that. I'm going to tell you the easiest things that you need to know. When we come or talk about royalties, the three main sources of revenue for a songwriter are, does anyone know? Any guesses? Yeah, for songwriters. Yeah. So those are the sources for sure. So you're talking about, when you're talking TV and film, that's called sync licensing or synchronization. We refer to it as sync licensing. Yeah. Mechanical royalties is another. And the third is performance royalties. Okay. So songwriters need to know there's three royalties that are accessible to them: mechanical royalties, performance royalties, and synchronization licensing. Let's go through a few of those, okay? So if you write a song, you need to register that song. To make sure you're covered for mechanical royalties, you have two choices in Canada. Used to be smaller, but you have two choices. So now you have CMRRA, the Canadian Musical Reproduction Rights Agency, or SOCAN-RR, SOCAN Reproduction Rights. I would encourage you, I'm not going to say that one is better than the other. Take a look at them. You are the owner of this. You should know and look into where you want to register. So mechanicals, you have SOCAN-RR or CMRRA. And that's for physical reproductions. So that they cover, in the traditional sense, pressing of CDs, vinyl. But there is also a mechanical inherent with streaming. Okay, there is a reproduction that happens in the back end of Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, they also do audio-visual post-synchronization. TikTok, all of these organizations have fought for with the copyright board, directly done deals with places. So mechanical royalties is number one. Number two is performance royalties, and that's for the public performance of a song or musical work. So a lot of people hear performance and they think, I'm the artist, I'm the performer, I should get paid. No. Performance royalties are for the songwriter, for the public performance of that song or musical work. Does anyone know the song I Will Always Love You? Made very famous by Whitney Houston. I am not going to sing it for you. But every time that song, that recording, Whitney Houston performing I Will Always Love You is played on the radio, do you know who gets paid? Dolly Parton. Because Dolly Parton is the songwriter. She owns that song. So we're going to look at mechanical royalties, performance royalties. The third source of revenue for a songwriter is sync or synchronization licensing. If you're interested in exploring sync licensing, which is placements in film, in television, you can look at, there's a lot of things online. Taxi is a website where you can sign up and pitch your songs. My biggest tip, if you watch a show and you're like, man, that placement of that song, like I got chills, like it was absolutely perfect. Watch the credits. See who the music supervisor is. Let's be honest, none of us are above a little flattery, okay? And having talked to many music supervisors, they even own that. So sometimes you can make connections directly with them. If you wonder who the main players are, especially in the Canadian market, look at the Music Supervisors Guild of Canada. Look them up. See who the players are, who the members of that guild are, and start making connections with them. This industry is based on connections and meaningful relationships. So maybe you don't want to go hard and be like, here's my songs. Place them. Place them. Start a dialogue. Go to the events where these people are. Go to the Music Supervisors Awards show, right? You can get tickets relatively cheap. Start networking with these people. Talk to them, meet them. See what kind of works they're placing. Another tip for sync, coming from the supervisors, is always have your song with lyrics, but also have a recording of it with just the instrumental, right? In the event that that's something they're interested in. So have both available. And if you're pitching a song, right? You have a song that you want them to place. You think it's great. Make sure when you're sending these things out to people, if you're doing a portfolio and EPK, you want to send your best. If you've written 50 songs, don't send them 50. Send them the 5 best, right? Start that dialogue that way. So for songwriters, mechanicals, performance, and sync. For mechanicals, you're going to look at CMRRA, which very easily is CMRRA.ca. You can check them out and their affiliation agreement. Or SOCAN-RR. For performance royalties, you're going to look at SOCAN in Canada. All of their affiliation agreements are available to you online. I can assure you that these organizations are there for you. So call them if you have a question. They have membership services people on staff, and that is their whole job, is to help creatives get fairly compensated for the work that they do. Another tip for songwriters, and this is just from my experience teaching. So I talk to a lot of students, and they make incredible music. And you know what they tell me when I say, oh, you've got royalties? And they're like, yeah, I just signed up with DistroKid or TuneCore. They're going to collect for me. They're signing up with their aggregator, that person who's getting their music, their recordings to Spotify or Apple Music. Do you know what? They have no idea what they're getting paid for. They can't read the statements, they don't look. And I will tell you, make no mistake, TuneCore, DistroKid, all of them, they're for-profit businesses. So they are taking a percentage of your royalties. You're paying them for a service that 99% of people can do on their own. It is very easy to register your works. You set up an account, you register your song title, you register all the writers or contributors to it, and you walk away. If you have questions, you call SOCAN, you call CMRRA, and they can help walk you through it. But their statements for you are very detailed. They're going to tell you exactly what you're getting paid for, whether it's an interactive stream, a non-interactive stream, whether it's YouTube, TikTok, whether it's a physical reproduction. They give you all of that information. So my tip would be, until your career is at a point where you cannot manage the business side, know it. Do it yourself, then you know it. You know what you should be getting paid for. For independent musicians, that makes it a little more difficult to be taken advantage of on some level. People might respect you even more when you say, oh yeah, no, I'm registered with CMRA, with SOCAN. I've done some sync licenses. Okay, so until you're at a place where you cannot do it on your own, I would encourage you to do it yourself. Look at them. It's very quick to register. They will walk you through the process. So that's for the songwriters. Another thing when it comes to the sync licensing, so we have rates in place that are set for mechanicals and performance. It's all negotiated either directly with TikTok or whomever, or it's run through the Copyright Board of Canada. And if you have any copyright questions, I would encourage you to be back here later today, because Paul Sanderson will be here, and Paul is the GOAT, okay? Paul wrote the book on entertainment law for Canadian creatives. He is an absolute legend, so stay tuned for that. But when it comes to sync licensing, it is negotiated. So you will want to understand how your song or musical work is being used, right? Is it in the title credits? Is it in a very pivotal scene in the film or TV show? All of that is negotiated. And there's many factors. How long are they using it for? So all of that goes into the negotiations when you're negotiating a sync license. But there are a lot of opportunities there. I've seen a lot of creatives have a lot of success. Not just one, but on YouTube right now, there is a sunglasses company, and some of our alumni just got their first sync placement. It is a sunglasses company who is partnered with Barrie for an exclusive Barrie sunglasses. And they got paid because they wanted to use their song and their recording. So they got paid for that. And then there's an audiovisual post synchronization. So they get paid up front, but then for every time that's viewed, there is a royalty. They're going to continue to get paid for that. So songwriters, register. Please do not leave money on the table. It is yours. If you've not done this yet, if you've not registered your songs, relax. It's okay. Because these organizations also keep that money. That money does not disappear. So if you've had traction, but you've not registered, there may be money out there for you. And once you do register, that can get released. Another great thing is SOCAN, CMRA, they have international agreements. So they can collect on your behalf. Let's say you have a song that's blowing up in Germany. Great. Look at who they're affiliated with. Once you sign with them, they will administer that in those other territories, which is great because for a lot of people, you may have something that does really well on Spotify in Germany, in France. It makes it easier for you. You can't collect. There's no way that anyone can register in every society across the world, right? You don't know where something's going to take off, but you do want to get paid for it, and you deserve to get paid for it. I will do a quiz at the end. So that's why I keep reiterating, okay? So, songwriters, SOCAN for performance. For mechanicals, CMRRA or SOCAN-RR. And if you're interested in sync licensing, get to know the music supervisors who are placing songs in film, television, advertising. You can look at the Music Supervisors Guild of Canada. So that sort of covers if you're a songwriter, okay? All the royalties associated with the song or musical work. But when we write a song, we don't just write it and then go, that was fun, right? We want to record it. We want people to hear that song. So on the other side, you have the recording. And there are royalties associated with that recording as well. Because a lot of people go, well, performance royalties, if the performer's not getting paid, how do they get paid? Don't worry, they get paid. For a lot of independent musicians, if you are a singer-songwriter or you in a band and you write your own material, if you record that song and you own that master recording, you're entitled to both, right? You get royalties for the song, but you also get royalties for the recording. So on a recording, who contributes to that? The performers, producers, engineers, right? There are a lot of people who make that happen. In the bigger ecosystem, right, it may be a label. They may be the people who own the master. We've all seen the Taylor Swift with every release of Taylor's version. That's because Taylor wanted to own her masters, and good on her, right? She really has changed the game for a lot of people by bossing it up. So she re-recorded all her masters, which means she owns those. So when Taylor Swift's version gets played on the radio, she also wrote it or co-wrote it. So her and her co-writers are getting paid from over here for being the songwriter. But over here, she's getting paid if she owns that master recording. And she's getting paid twice. Because the master recording is split between the owner of the master recording, right? Who owns that? Because what that means is they probably invested in it. They put money down to get that recording made. So they are entitled to some. But it also pays out all the performers. All. So if anyone does session musician work at all, guitar, background vocals, whatever, they may pay you up front, but you are also entitled to a royalty every time that is played. Yeah. So for the recording side, does anyone know who we need to affiliate with in Canada? This one, most people don't. So there's a few options. If you own the master recording, you own that. You're going to look at Connect Music Licensing. They're the organization in Canada who can assign you an ISRC, an International Standard Recording Code. A lot of the aggregators will assign that as well, but you can go through Connect directly, and I would encourage you to do that. Why it's cool is these ISRC codes are really important for tracking, for knowing where our royalties are coming from. And if I use DistroKid, for example, they'll assign me an ISRC, but it's going to go through with a DistroKid identifier. If you register as yourself, you get your own identifier. So you could, in theory, have all your ISRCs that are almost sequential in numbers, which makes it a lot easier for tracking. I know it's a creative business, but metadata is the future of music. And I hate to say that, but it is the way that you can track to make sure you are getting paid. It's also a really great way when you go to SOCAN or CMRA to search if there's any royalties outstanding for it. You can search by that ISRC because that information is embedded in everything from Spotify's records to album releases, everything. They're going to rely on the ISRC for the recording and the ISWC for the song or musical work, which SOCAN will assign to you. Am I losing everyone? Are we following? I know it's a lot. It is a lot, but I do encourage you to just look at the organizations I'm telling you to look at. It will be really helpful, and those people will walk you through it. So for the recording, we're going to look at Connect Music Licensing if we own that master recording. Now, what do we do if we're a performer, if we're a vocalist, if we're a guitar player? Well, you have a few options there. You can go directly to an organization called Resound, RE:sound. You can affiliate with them. Or you can look at ACTRA RACs. You have a choice there. Previously, I would have included MROC, but MROC is going out of business, so I would kind of not look there right now. They were fabulous, which makes me really sad. I'm not sure what's happened there, but you want to look at Resound or ACTRA RACs. How it works for performers is there is 50% of that recording royalty goes to the performers, okay? And it's split. It's split from there. So if you are a feature performer, let's say you're in a band, there's 4 members, you're all feature performers. But if you are a session guitarist, you're what's considered a non-feature, and you're still entitled to some of that money. So for the performers, it splits 80% for feature performers, and the 20% gets split for non-feature. Typically, your non-feature performers will have been paid a fee to record, right? A session fee, but you are entitled to further royalties. I assure you, these organizations will walk you through that. They will make it seamless. But you need to understand how this ecosystem works, because you could be hustling. You could be playing live shows. What's the point of a live show? You want people to listen to your music. Maybe they buy something, buy merch. They buy physical product if you're selling it, or they go to find you on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, wherever that may be, and they're listening to your music. That's the goal. So if we can translate someone, let's say, did anyone perform here this weekend? Yeah? Okay. But the hope is that someone heard you and then went and looked, right? Is like, oh my gosh, so great. I got to check this out. And then they go and listen. If they did that, you should be getting paid for that. So that's the goal, is to make sure that you are getting paid everything that you are entitled to. Okay, there's a lot of options out there for people. We know there's so much music that it's sometimes hard to choose. If you're like me, I go down a rabbit hole. Right now I'm on a Chapel Roan. I got my Pink Pony Club nails because that's what I was feeling. But you can bet someone like a Taylor Swift, they've got a publisher. They got people doing the work for them, making sure they're getting paid. You have to fight as hard as they did. So you need to know the systems that are in place to make sure that you get compensated. Songwriters, mechanical, performance, sync, CMRA, SOCAN-RR, SOCAN, and music supervisors. Or you can find online sites like Taxi that may charge you a fee to try, and you can use it to place your music. On the other side, for that recording, that thing that we hear on the radio or on Spotify, if you contributed to any musical recording, you need to look at Connect Music Licensing, and Resound or ACTRA RACs. If you have questions, call them. They'll pick up the phone, I promise you. These are collectives. It is their job. It is what they do. I worked at one for 13 years. Our goal was to make sure that the creatives were compensated fairly for their work and their contribution to music. We wouldn't have jobs if you weren't making music. I love music. I am not going to sing or perform because I'm terrible. But music is my world. It has been from a young age. My dad is a gigging musician and has been my entire life. So I grew up listening to music, going to festivals like this, right? People deserve to be compensated. So often the people who work at these organizations are there because they love music and they want you to keep making music. It's exciting. Who knows, right? We don't know what the next big thing is. But if you aren't getting paid and you can't pay your bills, you might stop. You might, as some people say, get a real job. I don't buy into that. There's this idea of scarcity in the music industry. There is no scarcity. There is music for everyone. You can find something. I can find music for any mood, any beautiful weather, right? If you perform live and there's a ticket, right? You sell tickets. Did you know SoCan also pays that? Yeah. If you don't put the time into learning how you can get paid, no one's going to tell you, right? They're not going to be like, hello, I've got your money over here that you don't know about. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So the more you know, the more you can take care of yourself and keep funding your creative pursuits. Any questions for me? Yeah. Okay, I'll see what I can do. Okay.
Oh, thank you. Hello, hello, hello. I just had my first. Okay, thanks. I just had my first single on Sirius XM.
Yeah.
And a kind of two-part question. I'd love to know the breakdown of the industry standard breakdown of producer percentage, guitarists and bassists, musicians that recorded on it.
Yeah.
But also, I'm Canadian, but I used to live in England, so I first registered it with PRS.
Yep.
And SiriusXM is an American company. So what's the best way 15 months from now for me to collect royalties? With all, I don't want to lose money twice on international fees and stuff like that.
Yeah. So to answer that second part,
Yeah.
Are you registered yet?
I am registered with PRS. They have all my songs. I have not done SoCan RR.
Okay. So you can continue with PRS. PRS will also, you can look at their international collections. I'm not 100% familiar with that, but I know when SoCan or CMRA have international collections, PRS is part of that.
Okay.
But that's covering you for the performance side. So I would definitely look at, in Canada, for sure, either SoCan RR or CMRA, because there's also a mechanical, especially when it comes to Sirius. Satellite radio is covered under one portion of the mechanical. So don't miss out on that. So that would be my tip. Look at and even call them and let them know that you're registered or affiliated with PRS. They can probably navigate or tell you what to do. Mm-hmm. But you might be missing out on mechanicals. So definitely go there. For the breakdown, as far as it goes, looking at like producer and performer.
Like I'm talking about in studio. No performance right now. It's just
the studio
recorded
recording.
Recorded song is out there. I know that money's coming in. When I get, let's say, $100.
Yep.
Just for easy numbers. What percent goes to the producer? What percent goes to the guitarist?
So it's usually, that's something that's decided then and there with the producer. If you gave them points, if you will, on that recording.
It was all done very informally.
Okay.
And should I say, do I pay out after I make, the recording wasn't free. I paid everyone in the room. and this, so like, do I make a profit and then they get a piece of the profits, or do they get percentage from $1?
So with a producer, that would have been something they had to negotiate. If you just paid them to produce it and that they walk away from that, like it was just a transaction 1-to-1, okay.
Yeah.
The musicians, you maybe paid them for the session,
Yeah.
but they can then register with Actor Racks or Resound directly for the public performance of that recording. And the way that's going to be split is 80% of the royalties available go to the feature performer, which would probably be you if it's under your name or a band name. And 20% of that royalty will be split amongst all non-features.
Okay.
So actual dollar amounts, it really depends what's available. But that's how the split works typically. Unless it's negotiated before, there's some instances where a band will have a non-feature performer, but they credit them on that recording as a feature. It's a lot of times why you see the Kid Leroy featuring Justin Bieber. Well, that's because it gets Justin Bieber registered as a feature performer. But you can do that as well when you register that recording. So you should register as well in Canada with either Resound or Actor Racks to register those recordings. You'll already have ISRCs and everything. That's great. But you then can list. And so anyone going into a studio anytime, keep a list of everyone who is there who contributed to that recording, right? There's no scarcity. We need to take care of each other. Yeah.
Not to hog the mic, but just I want to give my producer money. He earned it.
Yeah.
What is the industry standard percentage that I should be negotiating?
It's negotiated. So I'm not an expert on that sort of negotiations with a producer. What I would say is when Paul Sanderson's here this afternoon, ask him.
Okay.
Because he's an entertainment lawyer, he's involved a lot in those types of negotiations.
Excellent.
Anyone else? Yeah. Oh.
So I'm in the U.S. and working with some U.S.-based artists. Would it be beneficial for them to also register with the Canadian PROs when they come up here? So they're covered when they come up here and perform.
Sure. Yeah, because when you register with SOCAN, for example, as our PRO, they will ask you what your affiliation is in the U.S. And they ask Canadians to choose either ASCAP or BMI. So they're in great position to just register that. Now, they may also want to check with whether they're ASCAP or BMI if they have reciprocal agreements in Canada, which may already have them covered. But a lot of this stuff is opt-in, especially when it comes to international collections. So if they weren't aware of that or didn't think they'd be here, they may want to just contact their PRO in the US and just opt in for international collections. I say always opt in unless you have the time to chase every PRO across the world. But Impel is a big organization that brings together all these PROs and collective management organizations, and they will facilitate that for you.
Right on.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, my question is just real quick because I missed the first half. I'm sorry. I apologize. I thought
It's
you were
early.
the next person coming
Oh.
up, so I'm timing. But is there any way, because I missed the beginning of do you have a list of like all these places you're supposed to be looking at? Because you're sitting here saying all these names and stuff.
I
and
know.
I'm kind of going, what?
Good morning. Yeah. So I'm not sure who I can share that with, but I would be happy to share it. I'll give you, actually, I have my card. So you can also email me with any questions. My students get really annoyed because I'm like, hey, guess what? We're back together. Let's get nerdy and talk royalties. And they're like, ugh. And I was like, you'll thank me. You'll thank me down the road. I promise you that. So I'll share my card. I have some stickers, guitar picks, and I have my card for anyone who has any further questions. Because I know it is a lot. Yeah.
Breakdown of the royalty street for the
Oh, yeah. Get the mic.
Sorry. Do you have a breakdown of those royalties if you're a songwriter and a producer and everything, and you own the recording, you own the masters? Do you have that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can share that with you for sure.
Okay.
I find for a lot of people it's visual.
Yeah.
So what I
No.
do have, and I'll share my contact, is I do it in a way that I find over many years of teaching has helped. So I do a breakdown, and then we also take a song and then list sort of all the contributors and then put them where they would get paid, which is sometimes helpful for people. So I will share my contact. For anyone online, if you want my contact, it's really easy. It's Melissa, Melissa, at metalworksinstitute.com. And it might even be on the Gussapolooza page. If not, they're welcome to share my link. I'm happy to talk royalties to anyone, anytime. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question, kind of distribution versus royalties.
Okay.
So, because my band's looking into releasing some music soon, so DistroKid was the main service I was looking at for distribution.
Uh-huh.
But then I would still want to go on to the other services you mentioned and register the band's songs.
Yep.
There, because I know they have like some royalty extra stuff.
Yeah.
But I have been advised that like SoCan is usually the better option for that.
Yeah. Don't
Okay.
pay them.
Yeah.
Pay yourself. So distribution, DistroKid, you're saying. I don't distribute music, but can I give you a tip?
Sure.
If you look up online, his name is Ari Herstand, A-R-I, and his last name is Herstand. He has a website called Ari's Take. And on it, he has the most incredible chart that is updated all the time of all the aggregators that are out there. Why I say that's important is don't just look at one. Because depending on what type of release you're doing, whether it's an album, if it's a single, if it's an EP, there are many options. And based on the fee structure and what you'll pay, who they send your music to, what their time is to get music out, DistroKid may not be the best for your project. So he has a chart where you can kind of go through and look. DistroKid is great for people. I just encourage people, look at all the different options available and find what works for your release best. Because there's so many of them, it's mind-blowing. And he is constantly updating this. He includes information on everything, like what territories they distribute, whether they distribute to TikTok, whether they distribute to YouTube, whether they distribute lyrics, whether they offer pre-save options. So it's good to take a look at that. And then, yes, my advice would be opt out of any royalty collection through your aggregator. You can do it yourself.
Right.
If you can make a spreadsheet or write a list, you're fine. Just go through SoCan. If there's, how many people in your band?
So there's 5 of us.
5? Do you all write?
Yes.
So you split it, songwriting 20, 20, 20, 20?
Yeah.
Okay, that's so easy. So you're going to register that, and you're going to get your bandmates as well to register with SoCan. So they'll get their own IPI, which is interested party identifier, that identifies you as a songwriter, and that will carry with you throughout your career. Then you'll get an ISWC for that song. It'll be linked to all 5 band members, and you tell them we each get 20%. Easy peasy, they pay you. These organizations like SoCan and CMRA, you can look up what their fees are that they take, but I can guarantee you it's fine. It just covers their operating costs for the most part. But if you're using DistroKid, they're still taking their fees. DistroKid's getting the money from CMRA, SoCan RR, or SoCan. The money's still coming from the same organizations. It's just that then DistroKid is taking a little bit off the top when if you register directly, it goes right to you.
Right. And then just a question for, dealing with a band.
Yep.
So would I make a SoCan account with like our band email to register the song, and then each individual person makes an account so they get paid? Or I was just a bit confused how that all works.
Register as an individual.
Okay.
So when you register the recording or the song, you can say the band name, that's who performed it. But you are all individual songwriters who contributed to a song.
Okay.
So you should all register as individuals.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
just one person out of that has to put the actual song and add the others onto it?
Yeah,
then?
they may ask that you all put in your claim for the 20%.
Okay.
Or what they'll do is typically if one person submits it, I've seen it, there's many different ways you could do it. You could register as like almost your own publisher. Whatever
yeah.
your band name is, XYZ Music. And then you could claim on behalf of all 5 band members, but you need to put the individual splits in. So the 2020, 2020, 20. And then they could pay it out to that publishing entity and then you split the money. Or you can all register as individuals and each get your own individual payment.
Okay.
So it's thinking about what works best for you as a band.
And then just, I again don't mean to hog the mic, but we do have one song that was written while 2 of our members were in a different band, and then that band split, and one of the members like got agreement from the others to take the songs and record them, but there's one he didn't like, so we used. And we were obviously going to give the other members of that previous band credit. We also have them, it's same kind of process for them for just that one song, either have them register or someone in our band handles that.
Anytime you write a song or use a song in that type of situation, first things first, do a song split agreement. So you can find a basic template for that online anywhere. It literally is, here's the song title, here are the individuals who wrote it, and here are their percentages. So have that conversation, get it signed off on so there's no issues down the line if that becomes your big hit, where they're like, but we wrote that song, we own it 100%. You can say, well, no, we all agreed, right? Because maybe as you got that beginning song the way it was, but maybe some changes happened to it before you recorded it. So you want to be included. So figure out with those other band members what the splits should be, what you can all agree to before, and then register it that way.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
If there's ever any disputes or conflicts when it comes to a song, they will hold money. So can CMRA, so can RR. What they do is they hold money until that dispute is resolved. And that happens for independent musicians. It happens for Drake, Kanye, whoever, Kendrick, whoever you want. It happens, and they hold that percentage that's disputed until it's resolved. Any other questions for me? No. Okay. Sure. Oh, we'll get a mic. Music soups.
So the whole ordeal with getting things on the radio is hiring a radio promoter and things like that. And music supervisor, getting your show, TV and film, getting your song on TV and film is, can be lucrative, and it's a great exposure. And now I've heard a lot of bands that don't need money, if they do exist, apparently, are willing to put their songs on shows for free. And that's just sort of a tidbit. Sorry, my question is, just like radio promoters, are there sync promoters that will go to the music supervisors and say that will push your songs?
You can probably find people who will do that. I'd just be wary of, I'd want to know what their relationship is, what their track record is. A lot of people are doing this on their own using websites or platforms like Taxi, but honestly, I would try and make connections with the supervisors directly if you can. Pitch them what you have. What I will say is music supervisors, they work within a budget that's given to them, right? So There's some great examples. The show Euphoria, if anyone knows that. The music supervisor for that, they knew what they wanted was for one scene. They wanted Cardi B. They could not afford Cardi B. So they looked for things that were similar. They like to discover new talent. You know who they discovered when they couldn't get Cardi B? Megan Thee Stallion. And they placed her song, and then she went, woo. So they are very open to discovering new talent and placing it, because then they get the kudos to you. Oh my gosh, what a placement. You found this great new artist. And sync is lucrative. It can be lucrative from the get-go. And then anyone knows Stranger Things, the TV show? Yeah. Kate Bush running up that hill. Wow, look what happened to that song when it was featured there. I have a 13-year-old who was probably 11 when that came out. My kids started walking around singing Kate Bush. I was like, man, I did such a good job raising you. You have great taste. No, she was just watching Stranger Things, or had heard it because it became part of the culture. And Kate Bush ran all the way to the bank with that one, because you know why? She was a smart businesswoman and creative who owned all her masters and was the songwriter. So she just took that check all the way to the bank. Yeah, absolutely. You know, if you want to look at people who have done really smart things in their career, look at people like that. Dolly Parton, the absolute pinnacle for me. I'll talk about Dolly all day. But I mean, she never gave anything away. Elvis Presley wanted to record I Will Always Love You. But at that time, Elvis was the big star. And to record your song, he was going to take a percentage of your songwriting. Dolly said she was so excited to hear Elvis wanted to record her song. And then she heard that and said, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm not giving you credit or a percentage for my song because you didn't write it. So Elvis never recorded it. And then Whitney Houston did, and there's a great example of Dolly just cashing in.
She wrote that song and Jolene in the same morning.
Yeah. Like, it's insane to think that someone, right? Think of even the song 9 to 5. She got the idea for it by clicking her acrylic nails together. That's where she got the beat. Genius. Absolute genius. Any other questions for me? Yes.
So in speaking about what he was saying,
Yeah.
when an artist is been asked, or they want a certain style of music for a film,
Yep.
but they can't afford it, what role will AI play in the very near future when they can just say, well, we want something like this? It's almost sort of like the Ray Parker Jr., sort of situation, but now they can just have it.
Yeah, so there's been, and I don't know what the future holds. I know when Paul's here, that's a great question for him, how the legal side of things is going to play out. There have been so many panels that I've sat in on recently just to listen because I'm curious, right? You can feed AI data saying sounds like this, but with this type of, and it will create something for you. And so the last panel I was on, it was a lot of music publishers worldwide, from France, everywhere. So all I can say is Paul might have more specifics about how the law is going to deal with this, but what this industry has typically done is been like, well, it'll work itself out. Let's just sit back here and it'll work itself out. And then we end up with the Napster fiasco. In the case of AI, the industry and all the key players are really trying to get ahead of this to put parameters in place for fair compensation so that I can't say, sounds like Kate Bush running up that hill, but with Drake vibe, right? Because if it creates something, well, that's Kate Bush's song, and that's Drake's and his producers. Like, they need to be compensated for this. But legally, ask Paul, and I always say just pay attention. Look at what's happening in the industry. Follow everything you can to see what the news is. Anything else? Well, you've been a lovely audience. I'll be hanging out, so I'll share my contact information for anyone who would like it. For those of you joining us live, you're welcome to contact me as well. I love talking royalties. If I don't know the answer, I will do my best to put you in contact with someone who does. But my biggest thing is songwriters need to look at SOCAN RR or CMRRA. And if you want sync, find the Music Soups. If you own a recording or perform on a recording, you're going to look at Connect Music licensing in Canada and either Resound or Actra Racks. If you take nothing else from this, just know that what you do has value and you deserve to be compensated for it. And you just need to own that process. I assure you, I promise you, once you do it, you'll realize it's not that hard. It just takes a little time. But when we're starting or when we're trying to figure out how to get compensated, we need to pay as much attention to the business as we do to the creative. Or we need to find someone who we really trust to help us do that. So thank you. You've been a great audience. Woo! I'll be hanging around. Enjoy the rest of your time at Gussapolooza.